Welcome back to Norwyn. This is Season 1, Episode 4 of Building Norwyn, where I'm building a fantasy world in real time, and you're coming along with me to help me out. So, welcome back to the forest. Wow, it's beautiful back here. Well, my question today for you is, if fantasy is just made up stories, things like myth and legend, they're all just made up stories that don't really mean anything, then why is Hollywood spending millions of dollars bringing the Odyssey to the big screen? And more importantly, why is it a blockbuster film right now? From everything I've heard, the movie is extremely popular, and movie theaters are filling up for the first time in a long time, probably since COVID, actually. People are flocking to see this movie, The Odyssey. Why is that? Why is it, if, it's just a bunch of made-up stories and no big deal, why is the movie so popular? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today on episode 4 of Building Norwyn. I'm going to tell you exactly why people love fantasy and myth still. And 3,000 years later, we're still reading this epic myth called the Odyssey. So people think fantasy is just escapism. It's just something that helps people escape reality, like a good drug. A way to just check out for a while, Whoa. And I'm here to tell you today that actually fantasy does the opposite. In fact, fantasy actually helps us see reality more clearly. Yeah, it does the opposite. It's not escapism. It's actually showing us the world, maybe in a way that we've never seen it before. But it's not helping us escape. I mean, sure, maybe people, there's people out there that probably use it for that or think of it that way, but I don't think of it that way at all. You see, people aren't still reading the Odyssey 3,000 years later because they actually think there's such a thing as a cyclops or a siren or, any other kind of giant monster. No, that's not why people are still reading the Odyssey 3,000 years later, or going to a movie about a story that took place 3,000 years ago. No, actually, the reason that I think that people love stories like the Odyssey is simply because everyone knows what it's like to long for home. Everyone knows what it's like to face temptation, to face a task that has to be done. But actually taking on the task means facing seemingly impossible odds. Yeah, you see, everybody understands those real human feelings and experiences. And that is exactly why people are still reading a 3,000-year-old story about monsters. Taking a little bit of a different route today through the forest. If you haven't noticed. Is that a raven I hear? Did you hear that? There it is again. I think it's time to go. Most fantasy worlds are built around castles. Norwyn, my fantasy world, is built around something different. It's actually built around a cathedral, which is why I've been using the term cathedral fantasy. Now, it's not because every story takes place in a cathedral, trust me. The reason I chose a cathedral is because the world of Norwyn asks the kinds of questions that cathedrals were built to ask. Questions like, what is true? What is worth remembering? What is worth preserving? What is truth? What is beauty? You see, those are the kinds of questions that, as a writer, I think are the most important. Things like, what really matters? Is riches and fame and glory all that really matters? Or is it something that the monks figured out long ago, hundreds of years ago, that what really matters is sacrifice, duty, honor, serving others, and building something that will live beyond you. It will outlast you. It will live beyond your own lifetime. And that's something that a guy by the name of Oswald learned back in England when he was exiled to a little island called Iona. You see, his father had been killed in battle, his father, the king. And so he was forced into exile. And so he went as far as he possibly could go and ends up on a little tiny island called Iona, which is just off the coast of Scotland. And it's not just any island. It's actually an island where the monks live. It's an island. It's a monastery island. And Oswald, who was a prince, he was royalty, he lived among the monks. And my guess is he'd never experienced anything like that before. He had probably never been to a monastery. He'd probably never been around monks before. And there was something about how they lived and what they believed and the values that they lived by that had a profound impact on young Prince Oswald. And interestingly enough, Oswald was so impacted by the faith of the monks and the lives that they lived and the things that they believed that he adopted their faith. And when he eventually left that island and went back to his kingdom and ruled as king, he actually remembered them. He never forgot them, and he decided that he wanted to reach back out to them, and he wanted somebody from that island to come and bring that same faith, that same lifestyle, that same value system and belief system. He wanted that for his kingdom. And so he basically said, hey, pick somebody and send them to me, because I want a community like that in my kingdom. And so eventually the word got to the monastery, the community in Iona, and as the story goes, they chose a young brother named Aidan. And Aidan traveled to Northumbria, where King Oswald was ruling. And King Oswald told young Aidan, you know what? I want you to set up an island, monastery island community, just like Iona. So go and search the land and find a suitable place, a suitable island where you can set up something just like Iona. And you're free to do whatever you want. You can pick the island, and you can design it and build it exactly to your own specifications and recreate that same kind of feel and community as what I experienced in Iona. And so he did. Aidan went and he found a small, tiny island right off the coast of northeast England. And that island is called Lindisfarne. And to this day, the story of Lindisfarne and its both success and tragedy live on. Because you see, the island of Lindisfarne is where those monks were copying manuscripts, important manuscripts. They were creating handwritten things, beautiful things, and preserving documents and scriptures. And it just so happens that I believe it was the year 793. That's the very place where the Vikings, the Danes, first landed and attacked England. And England was never the same. you know, those brothers, those monks, those priests, they weren't ready for an attack like that. They didn't have like a fortress. They didn't have, you know, walls of stone to protect their community. They didn't have weapons. They weren't trained warriors. And so they fell quickly to the attack, and many monks died. I believe close to 100 or so died on that first attack, and some were taken as slaves. The place was ransacked. All the treasures, anything that was shiny, gold, silver, it was all taken by the Vikings. But you know what's interesting? Even though that place was ransacked and that holy island, it's still called the Holy Island to this day, that holy island was attacked brutally. The mission lived on. And the greatest treasures were not stolen by the Vikings. In fact, there's a document that to this day is considered one of the most valuable documents that's still in existence today. It's under glass in a museum. It's called the Lindisfarne Gospels. I'd love to see it someday. And if I go there, see it for myself, I'll definitely make a video. But you know, that's the true history. That's not fantasy. That's what really happened. And there's so many stories like that, and so many interesting things that have happened. And you know, I love the phrase, you've heard it before, the truth is stranger than fiction. And that's why I'm building this world called Norwyn, because I want to ask important questions, the same kinds of questions that people like Aidan and young Prince Oswald asked. The kinds of questions that cathedrals were designed to ask. It's like the building itself asks the questions. And those questions are things like, what is worth remembering? What gives us hope when the darkness seems stronger than the light? Those aren't just fantasy questions. Those are human questions. And in Norwyn, there's a monastery that you're going to learn about called the Red Abbey, and it sits right on the coast. I can't wait to write my next children's book, my Norwyn children's book called The Red Abbey. You're going to love it. For centuries, the monks have preserved the books, the important documents, just like on the islands of Iona and Lindisfarne. And in fact, in my world, Norwyn, I'm actually going to have islands called the Shattered Islands, where there were actually monasteries like Iona and Lindisfarne. And the thing that I love so much about this history is that this was a different kind of Christianity. I mean, this wasn't the kind of medieval Christianity that you see in the movies or you read about in the history books with the popes and the priests and the, you know, power and the corruption and all that. I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure there was no corruption, but this was a different kind of Christianity. This Christianity had come from Ireland, and it was very different in how it was practiced and what was valued, what was prioritized. And anyways, I'm kind of rambling now, but you get the idea. Yeah. You see, the monsters represent something far deeper than themselves. That's the power of myth. And the same is true for many of our favorite stories when you think about it. I mean, I don't know about you, but some of my favorite stories, some of my favorite all-time movies, I'm going to share them with you right now. Think about them. Braveheart isn't just about medieval Scotland. Gladiator isn't just about ancient Rome. The Prestige isn't just about magicians. And the Odyssey isn't just about ancient Greece. You see, every single one of those are stories of courage, sacrifice, suffering, honor, freedom, betrayal. Oh no. They're stories about courage, sacrifice, betrayal, suffering, redemption, and hope. And that is exactly why they endure.